Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Zapier 101, How to Get Started with Zapier. We know you have a lot of things you could be doing with your time, so we really do appreciate you spending it here with us. And it's also really awesome to see people joining us from all over the world, so thank you for joining. My name's Katie, and I'm going to be moderating today's event. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. So first of all, this webinar will be recorded. I know we've already got a lot of questions in the chat about that, and you'll get an email with the recording afterwards, probably tomorrow. Next, all attendees are muted, but if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you put them in the chat box, it will probably get lost due to the sheer volume of people on the call. So make sure you put those in the Q&A box, and we'll have our support team try their best to get to those during the webinar. And if not, we'll have time at the end of the webinar for Lori to answer some of your questions live. There will also be a survey at the end of this, and we'd love it if you could fill it out and give us any feedback you might have so we can improve our future events. All right, so let's get started. I would like to introduce our speaker today, Lori Roach. Lori works on our support team, training new Zapians to do support, both our new support teammates as well as everyone who does support through our All Hands Support Initiative. We're very lucky to have her today because she's an expert Zapier user. All right, remember you can ask all the questions that you want in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen, and our team will save some time at the end of the webinar to get those questions answered in real time. And with that, I'm going to let Lori take it away. Thanks, Lori.
All right, thanks so much, Katie, and welcome everyone to Zapier 101. I am Lori. I am a support trainer here at Zapier, and I'm here to show you how to use Zapier so you can automate all the things. So before we get started, I'm going to run through a quick agenda. So we're going to look at what is Zapier, how to unleash your Zaps, how to use Zapier, and then we'll do a live demo where I'm going to show you how to find Zaps that'll work for you, how to build a Zap, and then we'll finish up with a bit of Q&A. So let's get started. So the big question, what is Zapier? Zapier is a tool that allows you to connect your favorite web apps with each other and move information between them automatically. This lets you sort of speed up your day, forget your busy work, and focus on what really matters. We have over 2,000 apps that we connect with. So apps like Gmail, Facebook, Google Sheets, MailChimp, Slack, Salesforce, the list goes on and on. So any of these can be connected with any of these. So if you check out our app directory, which is zapier.com/apps, you will probably find a number of the apps that you use every day that you can now use in your workflows. And again, speed up your day. So I just want to talk a little bit about Zapier as a company. We were recently named number 24 on the Forbes 2020 Cloud 100 apps. This is a list that Forbes puts together showing what they think are the best private cloud companies in the world. And we made number 24, which is amazing. Even more amazing, we were number 33 last year, so we jumped up a lot, and that's like super darn cool. One of the things that makes us unique from other companies is we are fully remote. We have never had a central office. So this means that we can work with the smartest people from all around the world. We're not limited to, one specific city. So that really helps us grow and expand with all sorts of contributions from everyone everywhere. The thing is, while we don't work in an office together, we typically get together a couple of times a year for either all company retreats or team specific retreats, or we will once everything gets back to normal. We have about 350 team members, and we are growing. And we have 1.8 million businesses and individuals who are using Zapier, which basically results in about 10 hours saved per person per week, which is incredible. I took a look at our productivity calculator, and in the 4 years that I've been working at Zapier, I have saved over 2,000 hours. And I really like having those extra 2,000 hours because there's a lot of stuff on Netflix to watch. And for everyone who's wondering, we pronounce it Zapier because Zapier makes you happier. So let's take a look at some of the apps that you can use to connect. So basically you can connect the software that you use every day and send information between those apps. And what's even better is you do not need to know a single line of code. Everything's all done in our editor. and you don't have to write any code or be a developer, be an IT team. It is just you and our editor, connect your app, set up your workflows, and voila, off you go. So what you're seeing here is a snapshot of some of the apps that we connect to. And then when you start, doing the math of all of those apps, this is literally billions and billions of possible combinations that you can get working for your workflows and do some really amazing creative things. All right, so getting started, basically figure out which apps you want to use, and then figure out what you want to have happen between those apps. So when building a Zap, you need an app and an event, and this is the trigger. So our trigger is every time this event happens, the Zap starts. So in this example, let's say you get a new subscriber in MailChimp. So once we have that new subscriber, we need to do something with that subscriber. So we need to have an action happen. And so that action in this case is we're going to add that new subscriber to our Salesforce CRM. Now we have a new lead in our CRM so that we can manage them that way. So a Zap is these two things. We have a trigger, we have an action. And so in a few minutes when we get to the demo, we'll take a look at how to set this up. So looking at some other examples of how you could, think about getting Zapier to help you in your day. This app is helping us consolidate all of the information into a Google spreadsheet. So we have new submissions in a type form. We put them all in a spreadsheet. We can do pivot tables and sorting and really take a look at what that information looks like and share it with the rest of our team. I'm going to be honest, I love Google Sheets. Google Sheets is one of my favorite tools in our toolbox. It is probably, I think, our most used app on Zapier across everybody. And it's just such a great place to store all kinds of information. And I'm going to be honest, it's free, which is also awesome. The thing about Google Sheets is it's time consuming to manage it yourself, and it's so easy for human error. I was recently building sort of a meal planning Zap, and I was trying to move everything into a spreadsheet, all my recipes. And it was with changes in one of our apps API, I couldn't get the recipe information. I'm like, oh man, I actually have to copy this and paste it in myself. No, I had to find another alternative for that, because just, not being able to send it through a Zap just seemed like a lot of extra work and a lot of extra error that I would have definitely put into that. So anytime we can automate this, anytime I can automate something, I am 100% going to do it. So if we think about this particular workflow, everything's in one place. It's all been added automatically. You didn't have to do any work. There's no errors. And now we have a spreadsheet with all of your leads all in one place that you can share with the team. And this is just one example. I mean, there are so many more. All right. Let's take another one. So some of you might be using Facebook lead ads to capture your leads, which is a really great place to get those. So this app, let's say we get those new leads, you want to immediately reach out to that new potential lead and send them some information, or just sort of say, hey, thanks for, getting in touch, or whatever you want to send them. You don't want to be sitting on your email 24/7, because you have things to do, you have a business to run. So if we set this up with a Zap, now all of a sudden the new lead comes in, it goes to the Zap. The Zap's like, all right, cool, now I know who this is. I'm going to send them an email, and that whooshes right away. So we're sending them, a PDF of information about your company. We're sending them just a nice note to say, hey, thanks so much. Any of these things are just being sent for you. And this is not limited to Google Sheets Facebook lead ads or Typeform or any one specific form. Wherever your leads are coming, whether it's Typeform or CRM or MailChimp or whatever app you're using, the Zap will just send that off with the email saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. So now, we've talked about sort of two-step Zaps, right? So we have a trigger, we have an action. Now, this is not that you're not limited to two steps, right? It's not one trigger, one action. It's actually one trigger and up to 100 action steps. So now when you have that opportunity, you can do multiple things with that information. So for example, we have this new lead in Facebook lead ads. We send them that thank you email, and then we sort of let our channel know, our Slack channel, say, hey, we just got a new lead. Or, hey, we made a new sale. And if you're starting out and it's a new business and you sold something, you want to have a Giphy party in Slack to celebrate that you've got this new lead or this new sale. So definitely we can do that with a Zap. Now, once we add extra steps on top of one action step, this becomes a multi-step Zap. And so now, again, we can do several jobs with this one workflow. And then we can have all sorts of crazy stuff happening. And I don't want to feel like we've talked a lot about leads. I don't want you to feel like you can only trigger on new leads. You can trigger on a lot of things. And we're going to look at some of those examples and things that you can do to help yourself, your teammates, the rest of your company, sort of help speed up their day and get more time back. Give you a few examples of personal ones. I have a Zap that triggers at noon on every Thursday that sends my baseball team a details of our week's game. So who we're playing, what park we're at, what time our game is. All that stuff gets sent automatically, so I don't have to remember to do it at the right time, and everyone shows up to our game at the right time. Another one that I do is I actually have a Zap that checks what event it is that I have in my calendar, and it changes my lights, and it changes my Slack status, and it tracks my time and toggles so I know where I'm spending my day, whether it's in training or whether it's in meetings or whether I'm working, whatever it is. Different lights, different toggle tracking, and then I've got a really good idea at the end of my week what I did, which is really awesome. All right, so a few other things we can do with Zapier. Engaging leads, which we've talked about. Importing customers, importing, every time you get a new customer in your e-commerce site, send that to your CRM, send it also to your email marketing platform. Notify your team. You've got a meeting coming up, or hey, we've got a new opportunity, or we have a new sign up on the blog, or a new post went out on the blog, any of those things. Saving time. Oh my gosh, this is going to save you so much time that you don't have to do the work. For example, you run a blog, you want to post every time you have a new blog, you want to send that out, and it's got to go to LinkedIn, and it's got to go to Facebook and to Twitter and to Instagram and to Pinterest and all of those places. Like, that's a lot of work for you to do. Set that up in one Zap, and it'll just send it to all of those places all the way for you. And then you don't have to do it. And you not having to do it is kind of the best thing. All right, so I've talked a lot of the terminology, so I just want to call this out so that when we get to our demo, you know sort of what we're talking about here. When we talk about an app is the application or the software that you're using. So again, Facebook, Google Sheets, Gmail, etc. A Zap is what we call the workflow that connects your app. So every Zap has a trigger, and every Zap has at least one, possibly more actions. So a trigger is the event that kickstarts your Zap. So what is the signal that says start this workflow? All right, an action is the thing that happens after the trigger. So if we look at the slide, the action here is we are going to send a message on Slack. So a task is what we call the action that your Zap performs. So we use this for sort of usage tracking with the plan that you're on. Every plan includes a set number of tasks that you can run every month. And when we consider what gets called a task is every time there's a successful action. So if you have a Zap that has one trigger, one action, every time it runs, that counts as a task. If you have a trigger that's or a Zap that is one trigger and 5 actions, if all 5 of those actions complete successfully, that counts as 5 tasks every time the Zap runs. And then finally, how you track all of this will happen in your task history, which is going to be in your Zapier dashboard. So you can see all of the actions that your Zaps have performed, the information that went through your Zaps, and how we track everything. We're definitely going to take a look at that in the demo. So with that, the demo. So let me, bear with me a second. I'm just going to set up my computer so we can, I have something to show you, and share my screen, and we are going to build some Zaps. All right, Zoom is hiding my screen so that I can share it. Yes, okay. I'm going to assume that you can see this okay, and if there's not, I'm hoping Katie will let me know.
Looks good.
Excellent, all right. Just realized to put that something over top of my notes, which is not super helpful. Okay, cool.
Lori, you might want to make it full. I don't know if you can make it full screen or zoom in at all.
Yep, no, let me do that.
Okay,
sorry.
Cool.
I am a multi-windows, multi-browsers, multi-tabs person, which is confusing a lot of the time.
Looks good.
All right, cool. So the first app we're going to build together is we're going to build the one that we looked at in our slides, which is a new entry in Typeform, and we're going to send this on to Google Sheets. And so I have set up for us, we have our Typeform and we have a spreadsheet. So we're going to build a Zap that is going to, every time we have a new entry into that Typeform, we're going to send that on to Google Sheets. So one of the things you'll notice here is as soon as you get to your Zapier dashboard, you're gonna get this big, hey, welcome to Zapier. And we can now choose the apps that we want to connect. So from here, I can just go ahead and hit Typeform, select that, and it's gonna start loading some recommended Zap templates or Zaps that are ready for you to go. We just hit that, try it, and it's gonna create the Zap for us and get us most of the way there. Now, when I add Google Sheets, so it's giving me ones that are using both of these apps. And you'll see here, right highlighted here, is literally the Zap that I'm going to want to build, which is create a spreadsheet row in Google Sheets when we have a new entry in Typeform. If it doesn't pop up here, we can still select that information. So I can go through all of the available triggers between these two apps. And I know here it's the new entry on Typeform. And then do this. What I want to have happen is create a spreadsheet row. So if there were not this try it button, you'll still get a button that says continue, and it'll still let us build the Zap with this trigger in action. So again, you can build your own. You are not limited to the templates that we have built. This is just a tiny, tiny sampling of what is available. But I'm still going to go ahead and hit this try it button and let this build a lot of the work for us, because then, again, speeding up time, we don't have to do it. So bear with us a second while that loads. All right, perfect. And so now you can see we've got a title, we have our trigger set up, our Typeform step set up, and we have our action set up with Google Sheets. So from here, we're literally just connecting things and telling the Zap what we want to do. So we want to connect our Typeform account. So I'm going to connect that. If you don't have it already connected, we have obviously a lot of sample accounts ready. We can go ahead, connect a new account, and it'll pop up and let us off into Typeform. Now, we do, obviously you're logging into Typeform here. We don't save this information. We save that you authenticated. We don't save your email and password. So we at Zapier, we would never see that information. We would never be able to access that information. So if you're concerned that we're like using this to go in and like poke around in your personal stuff, that is not a thing that we could ever be able to do. All right, moving on. So we've connected it. From here, we need to select which form we want to use. And since I built one that's literally got my name in it, it should be easy to find. And we're going to hit continue. And with those 2 clicks, we have now set up our trigger step. Now we're going to get to this test trigger option. And so what we do with the test trigger is it's going to go to Typeform and be like, hey, is there a form entry that we can look at and sort of see what fields are coming back from Typeform when this happens. And so we can see somebody named Frida Jones filled this out. They filled it out in October. Here's a secret, I'm Frida Jones, and all of the responses. So you can see that we have a field that has all of the responses. You can also see that all of these are in separate fields, which is great. So depending on what we want to do with it, if we want to just send an email with all the responses, we can do that one field. If we want to put them separately into different places, which is exactly what we're going to do here, we have these separate fields to play with. So let's go ahead and continue, and we're going to move on to our Google Sheet step. So again, let us go ahead and connect our Google Sheets account. And so we just want to make sure we're filling out all the fields. So the drive, it's going to nothing selected. It goes to my personal drive, which is what I want it to do. I can see that my spreadsheet is called webinar demo. And the worksheet is sheet number 1. And that's where everything is going to live in my spreadsheet. And you can see that here. All right, so now what's opened up is fields for each of the columns in my spreadsheet. So we can see here, why are you reaching out, your message, name, email, which corresponds to why are you reaching out, your message, name, email. So perfect. So all we need to do now is tell the Zap to take the information from Typeform and put it in the correct column. So from here, why are we reaching out? We're going to do something that's called mapping fields. And essentially it literally just means grab the field you want to show here from the dropdown. But if you write into support, we're going to say map your fields. And so I just want to clarify, this is what we're asking you to do. So we pop into the dropdown. We can see that the message, why are you reaching out? We can click that here, and that's going to map this information. Now, this is the response from the sample data only, right? So we only have what this one person filled out. But when this app runs, every single time, whatever information that entry put into this field, that's what's going to appear here. So that way we're not sending the same thing over and over again. It's each new bit of information is going to go through our Zap. So I'm just going to finish mapping these fields. Name and email. All right. And then continue. And then just for the sake of making sure that everything is being sent as it's supposed to send, we're going to hit a test. And that's going to add that information to my spreadsheet. And we should see, yep, right here at the bottom, it added that same information again. So we're going to go ahead, and I want to show you sort of the magic of how this is going to work. I'm going to turn this on in a second. There we go. And then we're going to actually fill out our form. So I want to know, actually, that's fine. We're going to do that. I want to know more about you. Tell me all the things. And my name is Lori. And I'm going to hit submit. And so this should happen pretty much instantly. So when I come to my spreadsheet, I should see all that information. And there we go. And this means I left one of my test apps on because it showed up twice. So here's a hint: if things show up twice, it is probably a hint that you accidentally had the Zap on, and like have two Zaps doing the same thing, which I think I must do. Sorry about that. All right, so that is how easy it is to build sort of your first Zap. So one of the things I sort of alluded to this, and I want to come back to this a little bit here, is the trigger with this one was instant, right? So as soon as we filled out the form, it whooshed through my 2 Zaps and showed up in my spreadsheet. We have 2 types of triggers. We have what's called an instant trigger, and we have what's called a polling trigger. So an instant trigger pretty much is advertised. As soon as the thing happens, the app sends it to us, the Zap triggers it, and it runs. The other type of trigger we have, the polling trigger, means that we reach out to the app on a regular basis. We sort of knock on the door. We're like, hey, do you have anything new for us? If we find something new, the Zap triggers. If we don't find anything new, we're like, all right, cool, we'll come back in a few minutes. How often that few minutes is entirely dependent on the plan that you're on. So if you look at our pricing page, you can see what the update or polling time is going to be for the plan that you want to be on. All right, so we're actually, so I want to kick this up a notch, because with this app, the one typeform to Google Sheets, we didn't really have a whole lot of control, right? It's like we got the information, we sent it to Google Sheets. Now I want to have a bit more fun with some of the cool stuff that we can do with Zapier. So let's go ahead and we're going to build a new Zap. And I want to do this a slightly different way, just to show you another thing that you can do with Zapier. So we see the big plus sign up here, or make a Zap. Click that Make a Zap button, and it's going to let us go right into the editor. And from here, we have all the control. Like, there is nothing set up for us. We have to set everything up. But again, I like control. I want to make sure things are working the way I want them to work. So what we're going to build right now, we're all at home. We're all working from home. We're all, on Zoom meetings all day. I don't know if you're anything like me. I'm always late. And so, I have a Zoom meeting, and I have to remember to go to my calendar and open that up and find the Zoom link and then click it, put it in a new window and click it and get into Zoom. And then I'm late, and then my manager gets kind of annoyed with me. So I want a way that's going to say to me, like, hey, Lori, you have a meeting like any minute now. Here's the Zoom link. You don't have to do any extra work. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a Zap that checks our calendar for events. We're going to check to see if a Zoom link has been provided. And if it is, we're going to send ourselves a DM on Slack with that Zoom link, letting us know, here's the link. And then we can be on time, and then managers are not going to be annoyed with us. I have to say, though, my manager is really awesome, and he's actually not annoyed with me. But anyway, all right. So let's choose Google Calendar from the list. And what we want to trigger on here is actually the event start, because I want it to trigger at the beginning of each meeting. I don't want to trigger when the event is created. So this is going to look at every event in my calendar, and then we're going to change how often and when and how frequently before the event happens do we want this to trigger. So let's go ahead and grab my account. All right, and so we're going to tell it to trigger on a calendar. So we're going to trigger off my schedule. Now, we talked about the polling time, right? So this is a polling trigger, which means we're going to keep going back to Google Calendar to see when my events are. So if you're on a starter and free plan, the update time is 15 minutes. So we want this to be more than 16 minutes. Now, I'm a better safe than sorry kind of person, so I'm actually going to trigger 30 minutes before, because if the polling time is not like on the hour, right, every 12 o'clock, 12:15, 12:30, 12:45, there's a chance that your meeting might get missed. So I figure give it a wider polling time, and then for sure all of your meetings are going to happen. So we want this to go 30 minutes before the event, and let's go ahead and set that up. And I'm going to test my trigger to pull in some fields from Google Calendar, and you can see that I have this Zapier 101 webinar. And so, oops, we're going to run that, and it moves on to the action. So now, not all of my meetings are Zoom meetings. They might be a Slack meeting, they might be an in-person meeting, I might have a phone call, whatever the thing is. So because I only want this notification if it's a Zoom meeting, we're going to do a filter, which is going to check my calendar event and see if it actually has a Zoom link. If there is a Zoom link, we'll continue on to the next steps. If it doesn't have a Zoom link, we're going to stop at this step completely. Now, when I talked about task usage, we talked about successful tasks. So if the Zap stops at this filter step, this doesn't count towards your task usage. So I'm also saving myself a little bit of money by not running this Zap, even when it doesn't need to run. So let's go ahead and we're going to set up our filter. So what we want to do is check a field from our Google Calendar. And because all of my coworkers are really awesome, they put the Zoom links into the location field. So we're going to check the location field, and we're going to say if it contains the word Zoom. Oops, helps when you spell the word Zoom correctly. So if the location field contains the word Zoom, we're going to continue on to another step. If it doesn't, we're going to stop the Zap right here. So let's go ahead and test this out. Now, the event that we created did not have a Zoom link in the location. It had it in the description, but that's fine. But for the purposes of this workflow, because the Zoom link was not in the location field, this would have stopped the Zap. This doesn't mean that my next events are going to stop. It just means this one specific event is going to stop the Zap, which is exactly what I want to have happen. No Zoom link, stop. Zoom link, keep going. So when we keep going, we're going to add another sort of play with Zapier tools here. Because we ran 30 minutes before the event, if that DM shows up in my calendar 30 minutes, I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to be in another training. I'm going to be, giving a webinar. I'm going to be working on something. I'm going to be like, I didn't even see that and I forgot it was there. So what I'm going to do is set this Zap to now delay until 2 minutes before the meeting. So that's enough of a notice for me to say, oh, I've got a meeting in a minute, go get a water. Here's my Zoom link. I'm on time. Everyone's happy. So with this, we're going to use the Zapier delay tool. So with delay by Zapier, we have a couple of options. We can delay for a set amount of time. So I can say delay for 20 minutes, delay for 5 minutes, whatever I want there. I can delay until a specific time, which is exactly what I want. I want to delay until 2 minutes before the time of the event. Delay after queue is a slightly more advanced topic, but essentially what delay after queue does is if you have a number of triggers that happen all at the same time, delay after queue will be, instead of running them all at the same time, it'll sort of line them up and run one after the other. Not what we're looking at today. We just want to delay until our 2 minutes before the event. So let's choose that one and we'll continue. And so one of the things here is I've said 2 minutes before the event time. Now, if I put that directly into here, that's going to be a little confusing and it might not run. So we're actually going to let the Zap do math for us because then we don't have to do it. So we can actually put in the math that we want right into this field and the Zap will do all that calculating and all that math and send it correctly. So what we want to do is we want to find the event start time, which should be in here. Yep, start time pretty, which is 12:45. And then we're going to let our math do minus 2m. So whatever date the event or the time the event is, we're going to say, figure out what 2 minutes before that time is, and that's when I want you to run. So no math for you. Zap's going to take care of it all for you. And let's go ahead and continue. All right, and we're going to test and continue. So this runs, and it would have run at 12:43, and it's now 1:31. So slightly in the past, but that's okay. We were here on time. So let's add one more step because we need to send that Slack message, right? So let's go ahead and find that in our list. And the event we want to do, we're going to send a DM because it'd be a little weird to send that to a public channel and then everyone's meetings are in there and nobody knows what meeting they're supposed to be in, and that would be a mess. All right, so we're going to send this to my Zapier account. All right, and to who? Well, obviously we're going to send it to me. I don't need to send it to somebody else. And the message. So, hey, you have a meeting. Here's the link. And then I could just go ahead and grab that Zoom link if it exists. Now, here's the thing. The Zoom link doesn't actually exist in the sample data that I'm using. However, the field where the Zoom link will come does exist. So I can map this field, even though this says no data, I'm still going to get it when the event actually has a Zoom link. So we don't need to worry about that. So are we going to send it as a bot? Yep, we can do that. And it could be just, hey, meeting bot. We give it a name, and we're going to put in a little icon. And because I use him for everything, I'm going to use the emoji I set up for my dog Oscar. And that's going to send me a little note here at the right time. So I can include a link to the Zap. So if you keep getting a Zap and you're like, hey, why am I getting this notification? And I don't remember setting that up. It'll give you a link so you can turn that off. I'm going to turn it off because I know that I set this up and why I'm getting it. Literally don't need to worry about any of the other things for this purpose. So we can go ahead and hit continue. And it will add a new message to my Slack that says, hey, you've got a meeting. Which is going to make me really happy and everyone else really happy when I'm not late for my meetings. All right, so I want to do a little bit of sort of Zapier TV magic. And I want to sort of look at a task history of what kind of information we're going to get with this one. So this is the one that's running. So you can see that I have a bunch of meetings and sometimes it ran and sometimes it didn't. So this is really interesting. We can see some of the different statuses of the tasks running. So this one here, you can see you have a Zoom meeting, it ran, it found an event, it found a link in the Zoom thing. Here, now mine is slightly different because some people use the web conferencing option in Google Calendar and some people use the location. So this app actually checks both those things. So if it's there, great. If it's in the location, it'll still work. And then I have a step that actually splits that out and just surfaces that Zoom link and gets rid of all of that other stuff. And then it goes to the delay and it went to Slack. And so you can see here down at the bottom that this ran 4 tasks, right? Because we had 4 action steps. We have the filter that was successful. We have the formatter that was successful. We have the delay that was successful. We have the message sent to Slack, 4 tasks. Now, if we look at some of the other tasks in here, we have this one that was filtered, which is, hey, you have a meeting. We triggered on the meeting, but there was nothing in this, there was no Zoom link in the location. There was no Zoom link in the conferencing option. So this stopped. So in terms of my task usage, it is 0 because nothing actually ran successfully. All right, so the task history is available right from your sidebar here. You can see task history and you can see for all of your Zaps, and you're gonna see my crazy one about flipping tables and Scruffy. Oh no, this is everything. This is the whole company-wide one. Oh dear, okay. I'm gonna come to my own personal account here for this one. So I just want to sort of take a quick look at the dashboard when we're in here, so that you can split up your Zaps into different folders. You can see your settings. If you are on a team, as I am on a team with the Zapier team, I can see my personal account. I can see my Zapier team account. We can see, a list of all of your Zaps. You can see the apps that you have connected. We can get to the task history, and we can explore the things that you can do with Zapier. So from the Explore page, we can see, hey, I'm looking for a CRM, or I'm looking for an email app, or I'm looking for a marketing app, or I am an accountant, designer, facilities manager, all of these things, you can sort of find Zaps that are going to help you. Or if you want to take a look at our app directory, we can go to zapier.com/apps. And everything is sort of organized by category. So we've got our most popular apps. You can find apps that have to do with commerce. You can find ones that have to do with marketing, with HR, Internet of Things. All of those things live and we make it very easy for you to find them and then build those apps. So I think that is everything I wanted to show you, or that I can show you in the time that we have together. But let's open things up to some Q&A and hit me with your questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. That was great. And just to reiterate, everyone, we will be sending this out as a recording, so look out for that in your inbox. And we do have some questions, and keep them coming. We have a little bit of time left to answer them. All right. Lori, how do I figure out what apps Zapier connects with?
Here you go. Right here. This is our app directory. This is all of the apps, all 2,000-ish. We're over 2,000 at this point. Apps, they're all here. They're all organized by category. So figure out sort of what category it is, like whether, like I said, email or marketing, CRM, whatever it is, you can come here and see the list. So for example, if I wanted to send out an email newsletter, I can click that category and I can see all of the apps that we integrate with here.
Awesome. I have a larger business. Do you have a specific plan for companies versus individuals?
We absolutely do. So let me show you our pricing page and you can see what is going on here. Yep. So here we go. Right now we have the free plan, the starter plan, the professional plan, and then for companies, we have teams and companies. So usually these are individuals, free, starter, professional, and then this is where you have multiple teams, multiple people on your team or within your company. You're going to get a lot more features with the teams and companies plans. You can have multiple users, you can share Zaps and the task history amongst everybody in the team. You get access to our premier support team. So there's, a lot more features, but this really helps you, keep on track of things. It's also really helpful if somebody leaves your company, right? And they were like the keeper of your Zapier account, they leave and all of a sudden nobody can access it. If they're on a team, everyone shared the Zaps among the team. And so, you keep track of everything and nothing gets lost, which is also really super helpful.
Awesome. Okay. Is a multi-step Zap considered as one task?
It is not. So every time there's a successful action. So if we look at the one that we just did, the one with the Zoom notification, we had 3 action steps, right? We had the filter, we had the delay, we had the send a message. So every time that runs, that counts as 3 tasks if all 3 action steps complete successfully.
Okay. How does Lori set up a Zap to send to her sports team? Does it link to her calendar if all the details are in there and transfers that to an email to her team?
So this is actually a really fun one. I do Zap challenges for the company where I just create these crazy scenarios and I'm like, all right, go build a Zap. So in fact, what it is we have a spreadsheet of all of the information of the thing. There's nothing in here. I have one that's set up for, oh darn. Let's see if I can find it. No, it's not coming up easy. So there's basically a spreadsheet that has all of our information. So who we're playing, what time we're playing, what park we're playing at. So the Zap actually triggers off of schedule by Zapier. And then it does a little formatting math to make sure it's got the right date. And then it checks the spreadsheet for the row on that date, returns that information, and then sends that through the email. So in fact, it does not connect to my calendar at all, just to the spreadsheet where we have all the information. The reason I did it that way is because that's how it gets sent to me from the league. So it was a lot easier than putting that all into my calendar because again, I work for Zapier and anytime I have to do manual work, I don't want to do that. So we had to work with the Google Sheet as I got it.
Awesome. Would I receive an error report if a trigger action or task fails processing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to sort of caveat that. Yes, if you set up notifications. So we do, if we run into errors with your Zaps, we will send you a notification if you've got that set up. If you need a more immediate notification, because we tend to sort of summarize it as like, hey, we ran into a bunch of errors. If you need it like Zap hit an error, I need to know right away. We actually have an app called Zapier Manager, and Zapier Manager is going to let you trigger on when there is an error, when the Zap got turned off. Actually, let me grab that up for you here. All right, we can see the triggers and actions. Actually, oh gosh, here's a thing that I can show everyone. This is an app integration page. We have an app integration page for every single app on Zapier. So you can come and get some help docs. You can see some potential apps that you can connect. You can see some of the Zap templates. And really exciting here is you can see all of the available triggers, actions, and searches available in this one specific app. So, if you want a notification immediately when you hit your task usage limit, or when a Zap gets halted, or a task gets halted, or there's an error, or it's turned off, all of these things, you can actually notify yourself through a Zap. So for example, we want to send an email, right? Anytime we have that kind of notification. Oops, let's go ahead and add Gmail here. And this is going to take us now to what we call a 2-app integration page. So this 2-app integration page shows us all the things you can do between Zapier Manager and Gmail. So we have our Zap templates again, and a list of all of the triggers, all of the actions that are available between these 2 apps. And we can start a Zap right here. So let's say it's Zap turned off. We want to send an email. Here's our big button. The Zap is already started for us.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay, so you already kind of answered this, but this person said we have a single login for our Zapier account. How do we make it a team account? And
you just upgrade right from your billing page.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. When app passwords are updated, does each Zap need to be re-authenticated?
Yes. Yeah, so if you change the password on your account, whatever account of Gmail, Facebook, whatever it is, because we only have the connection with the old password. So like I said, we don't keep your password, but we just know that it was authenticated. So when we try to connect, we use that authentication. That password is wrong, the authentication is wrong, the Zap will get turned off. So yeah, you'll definitely want to update that in your apps page, in your Zapier dashboard.
Okay. How does Zapier work with webhooks? Trying to bring in Zillow leads to our CRM and was told we also need a webhook.
Yes,
also, is this part of the premium membership?
Yeah, so webhooks are a premium app. We have 63 premium apps, I think. And these are apps that are a little bit more complicated. So development took a little bit longer. They take a little bit more for us to support. So we've made these premium apps. Webhooks by Zapier is one of our premium apps. In fact, the Webhooks by Zapier, the one that you're talking about, the Zillow, we want our new leads, is actually really a very easy Zap to create. So if we were to, I don't want to get too deep into like specific workflows, and webhooks are really slightly more advanced for a 101. But essentially, when you create a Webhooks by Zapier trigger, we're going to use the catch hook, and your Zillow rep is going to give you, you have to give this URL to your rep. So this URL is unique to your Zap. We're going to grab this URL, which is the catch hook URL. So anything that comes from Zillow is going to get sent to this hook. We're going to see it. We're going to okay, cool. We're going to trigger the Zap, and then we're going to send that on to your CRM. So literally, once you have this step set up, copy this URL, send it to your Zillow rep, and they'll be able to hook that up to your specific leads in Zillow.
Cool. Thanks. Okay, what's the best way to go about creating Zaps with programs that don't already have an integration?
All right, we have a bunch of ways. This is one of them. Using webhooks by Zapier is a great way to connect to those. If it's something, there's a bunch of ways. We actually have a really good blog post for that. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Add any app to Zapier. I'm going to pop this into the chat. Just so that everyone has access to it. And these are a bunch of different ways that you can do this. So, possibly if it's an RSS feed, if whatever you're trying to bring into Zapier as an RSS feed, we can use it that way. Another really good one is Parser by Zapier. So Parser by Zapier will actually let you extract information from an email and create separate fields and then send those separate fields on to wherever it is you want to do. Definitely take a look at this blog post because that's going to give you a lot of the really a little bit more in-depth ways of connecting apps that don't necessarily integrate with Zapier. Also, reach out. It is free to build an app on Zapier. So reach out to the app that you want to connect to Zapier and be like, hey, I want to see you on Zapier, because they can definitely do that. We'd love to have them.
Awesome. Okay, we have a ton of questions coming in. We probably won't be able to get to all of them. I just want to reiterate that, but I'm just going to keep going because we have a few more here. What do you do when the fields don't map correctly? I kept trying to create a Zap using email parser, but I couldn't get it to map correctly.
Okay. A little bit of troubleshooting is probably things, making sure that especially with Parser by Zapier, making sure that the fields are coming through, that the right information is getting pulled. Email bar parser is it's very fussy. So the emails have to look exactly the same as your template every time they come through. And if it doesn't, it tends to find really odd information. It pulls different fields and it pulls in more than you want or less than you want. So again, especially with that one, check to make sure that your emails look exactly the same in terms of layout every time they come through. Check to make sure that your template is set up correctly. Check to make sure that you've mapped it correctly in the Zap. If at the end of all of that, and you've tried all those things and you've troubleshooted and you're just not getting there, by all means, write into Zapier support, and one of our support team will definitely take a look and see what's going on and see if we can help you get that up and running.
Awesome. What happens to uncompleted tasks? Does it mean I'll have to check them one by one and complete them manually?
So it's rare that would happen. So that you would need to redo it. So there might be, it might be halted because of an error, in which case the error happened, so you may not be able to replay it. If it's halted because there was a problem connecting to the app, we have an option called auto replay, which is available in professional and higher plans, which literally you turn that on and it'll just keep trying. So if it halted because of something, like we couldn't connect to the app, we'll just keep trying again and again for, I think it's 5 times before we give up. And this is where, that Zapier manager, if you're really worried about things not coming through, set up a Zap that notifies you when this stuff happens. But we're in the business of automating things. We're in the business of making sure that you don't have to come in and manually redo things.
Great. Okay, this one's interesting. It's I work for a marketing agency and looking into ways to set up Zaps for 2 separate clients. Would I need to have full access and rights to all of their systems in order to get things set up for them, or is there an admin read-only way to do this on their behalf?
Unfortunately, no, they would need to give you all the login access to any apps that they wanted you to connect to.
Okay.
The other option, if that is a concern, because it is, privacy and security is definitely a concern these days. What they could do is create their own Zapier account and have the information sent to a Google Sheet that they share with you, or to like an email using email parser, something that you would have access to without having to dig into their actual logins. But then then you'd have to get them on board to Zapier, which is awesome and I highly recommend as well.
Okay. Just going to have 2 more questions here. Do people usually have master Zapier users at their company, or do teams typically all know how to use it?
It depends. Honestly, like we looked at, it's really, Zapier is pretty user friendly. So I think with a bit of play, anyone can jump in and become a master Zapier user. I always joke, like I knew nothing when I started at Zapier. In terms of, like, I built a couple of tiny little Zaps, but when I got here, I was just like, whoa, this is we can do so many things. And now, I build like crazy complicated Zaps just for fun. So I think everyone will get there if you have a little bit of play with it. If you're like, oh, you know what, I don't have time for that. Or, just like it's me, I'm my own business. I can't do all of these things. We have our Zapier experts. We have a whole directory of Zapier experts who are, you can hire and let them do it for you. But I recommend, give it a shot on your own and see what you can do. But yeah, we have our whole directory of partners and experts who can help you do it if you don't have the time or the energy.
Great. That was actually my next question is, this person said, this is all beyond my technical ability. Can Zapier provide me with someone who can set up what I need?
Yep, we have a whole directory of people who we have tested and we've checked to make sure that they are Zapier experts. Another place you might want to try is the Zapier community. People look for, people have, jobs for hire there, or you've got sort of crowdsourcing, like, hey, I'm struggling with this kind of thing, and you'll get like an expert will pop in, or just another Zapier user will pop in and be like, hey, have you tried doing this? So yeah, there's a lot of options for you. If you are beyond your skill, but I believe in you. I bet you could do it. I'm confident you could do it.
Great. And if you did ask a question and we didn't get to it, feel free to reach out to the community or support. And we will be sending this recording out for you afterwards. So look out for that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you, Lori, for a great presentation.
Thank you.
And please feel free to fill out the survey afterwards so we can improve our future demos. Thank you, everybody, so much.